And good afternoon. My name is Ryan Belmore. I'm the founder and publisher here at the Alexandria Brief. It is Wednesday, March 4th. It is 3 p.m. And for the last several years, not years, it's felt like years this year, last several weeks, months, days, we've been chatting with candidates who have been running for local and I guess statewide office. And this week we've been focused on the trickle-down effect, and we have gotten down to the opening on Alexandria City Council that Kirk McPike has left open because he has been sworn in as your delegate for Alexandria. And there are three candidates who are running for that seat. Early voting starts this Friday in Alexandria, and the election takes place on April 21st. There is one Democratic candidate, two independent candidates, or two unaffiliated candidates, and no Republican candidate. I know there was a little bit of confusion, but there is not a Republican. So there are three candidates. We chatted with two yesterday. We're chatting with the third one today. You'll be able to compare, contrast, however you like to consume media. You can watch the interviews. They're each about 30 minutes long. You can listen to them. I put the audio as well as podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. Be patient with me there. I'm trying to get them uploaded as quick as possible. Or you can read about the candidates and see where they fall on issues. I'm trying to ask them just about all the same questions, but sometimes I just follow the conversation to wherever it leads me. And that's where we go. And today is Alison Virginia O'Connell. Alison, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, Ryan?
Good. So I've been telling the story, and I was not planning on doing this when I woke up yesterday morning and started these interviews. I thought about all three candidates, and all three candidates I have met in a different capacity than what most people know them by, which is funny. So you and I are connected through your actual day job of a pet care company who takes lovingly great care of my dogs for the last several years. So that is how I got to know you. And then I got to know of everything else you do in the community. And it's kind of been that way with the three candidates. So it's just been funny to get to know you as well as the other two candidates in this capacity, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it makes sense though, right? Alexandria is a small community. And once you start getting active in it, you realize that you see the same people in a lot of places. You get to see them in sort of all their multiplicities, I guess, and the things they care about and the way they show up for social stuff, but also the political things they care about.
Yeah. So for those who aren't familiar with you, your campaign is just about, today is Wednesday. I believe it was the last Thursday I stumbled upon it. So it's about a week old, but tell us about yourself, and then we'll get into maybe why you're running.
I'm a progressive. I have lived on and off in Alexandria for about 10 years. As anyone who has had housing struggles in the city knows, that I have had to move a few times just based on pricing, right? So I bopped over to Arlington for a little bit. And I've worked in the city for about 8 years. And I would say in terms of community organizations, I started being involved my first tenure here before I switched over to Arlington. But in terms of more intense activity and leadership, that's been about the last 3 years. I've gotten involved in community organizing for Palestine and for migrant justice.
Okay. And what else should people know about you as Alison the person? As a person.
I think it's important to know that I'm working class. That's a big part of my identity and how I relate to other people. I'm disabled, and I also think that's a big part of sort of how you'll interact with me as a candidate. If you see me virtually, you'll see my full face, but in public meetings, I wear a mask because I have an autoimmune disorder. And I think being disabled is a big strength for me. It lets me identify with other people. It increases my empathy, and it makes me more aware of the ways we need to improve accessibility in the city. And I know this is a cliche for Alexandria, and obviously with the context you provided, I really, really love dogs, big dog person. I apologize in advance if you are on a call or meeting with me and you hear my dogs barking. It happens a lot. I do my best, but it happens a lot.
I have two, as you know, and one is laying here right now and one is downstairs, but you never know when they'll make an appearance here on these interviews. So
That's nice.
we may just see one or two. So you're busy. Why run for office? Why right now?
I think for a lot of people, these cascading elections and firehouse primaries were very interesting, right? And so I considered it a couple of different times in the process for other roles as it unfolded. And I just wasn't sure. I think we all know it's a daunting process for candidates, especially if you don't have the backing of a major party. But as I watched the last primary play out, I was frustrated at the lack of space for the issues that I care most about. And I thought, it doesn't have to be that way. If I want to participate, if I have strong feelings about this, then I can participate. And I can provide people in the city a further left option that meets the needs of the people I regularly talk to.
And what are I mean, we can I've done this with everybody. I have this nice, beautiful, organized list, and then
Go off on tangents.
I decided to go another way, but you've brought up. I know what some of the issues you care about are from covering city council meetings as well as many other events, and we've known each other now for a couple of years. But what are some of the issues that you care about that inspired you, or that you didn't see being represented in this race?
I think I will say this is something that is well represented in a way, which is housing affordability. I think if you are a renter in this city, there's no way not to care about it. It is, renters in the city are in a tough position. But having experienced this myself and then watched how it plays out in community organizations, I don't think we push developers enough for deeply affordable housing. When you say, okay, this is going to be priced at 80% area median income, that's still not realistic for a lot of people. That's not realistic for me. So I care very much about that and making space for initiatives where we push harder for deeply affordable housing. As you know, from all those city council meetings, I care a lot about ethical investment, about making sure that our city's funds and our pensions are invested in a way that reflect our city's values around human rights. And I care a lot about getting ICE out of the city. That's something that was very present in the race also, but I think that I'm concerned that there's not enough of a focus on what the community groups are asking for on these issues. They've been pretty clear about wanting to have the sheriff held accountable in a number of ways. And I think making statements and condemning what he's done is great, but we need to go further than that.
Yeah, just wondering. Well, I guess I have two ways I want to go, but we'll go one way first because we can't do both at the same time. But if you were on council, what would you want to see done for either of those issues?
Well, let's start with getting ICE out of the city. I think one thing I won't get to participate in is the budget process, right? And I think every candidate that you've spoken to has said that they regret not being able to be part of that. But I do hope they heed the community demand to trim the sheriff's budget. It's a small increase this year. At minimum, they could not give him that increase. But he didn't listen to the community, and he didn't listen to city council when we told him that we don't want him transferring people to ICE custody. So I think that's a meaningful way that the council can engage. I also think, let's say we come out of this budget process and they either have or haven't cut his budget and there's not a substantial change. There's been an ongoing demand for him to attend a public hearing. I've heard the criticisms about it. Okay, well, what if he doesn't come? I think that makes a big statement to the community if he does not show up. It's a lack of respect for his constituents. And if he does come, I think it's an opportunity for the community to really talk through with him why he believes transferring people to ICE is legally justified when we know they're not doing that in Arlington and they're not doing that in Fairfax. And multiple legal entities have said he doesn't have to do that. The other thing I think would be really promising to push on is getting automated license plate readers or flock readers out of our city. They are dangerous for all of us, not just migrants, but they are one of the ways that ICE is hunting people down and finding them.
I'm just thinking about it, obviously the sheriff was reelected, and I'm just wondering if there has been enough push or enough advocacy for more of the community to participate in this. From the top down, from the council taking action, that's one thing. But I'm wondering, a typical public hearing at a Saturday city council meeting, I'll round up and say, let's say we hear from 100 people, but are we hearing from enough people? What is the audience who is wanting these changes? How big of an audience, how big of the community and voters are calling for these changes?
I think it's one of the most popular issues actually in the country and in our community, right? I think it's something like 77% of Democrats were just polled and said they supported abolishing ICE. And our community is majority Democrat. We know that. We tend to always vote Democrat. There's a strong support for it. It's one of the main things people talk about. And there's been a real boom in community organizing around it because people are so concerned. I do also think when we talk about people who are in the room to push on those things, we have to be aware of who can't be in the room, right? There are a lot of people who care deeply about getting ICE out of the city, and it's not safe for them to talk about it. It's not safe for them to go to a public meeting and put their full name up on the screen and say, I oppose these policies. So you will see, I think, a lot of an overrepresentation of white people in those rooms who care deeply about this. But I think we have to remember all the people who can't be in those rooms and talk about it, who also care.
Do you think that, cutting the budget or holding or not giving me an increase or requiring them to participate, which I don't even, you might know the answer. Can the city council actually require him to participate in something like that? But you don't think it would have negative impacts on the rest of the duties the sheriff's department is trying to do?
So they can't require him. They can, I believe, invite him, but they can't compel him to attend if he doesn't choose to. Again, I think that actually is an answer about kind of contempt for his community if the city council holds a hearing and he doesn't show up. I would say no. I suppose I'm not worried because I think most of our police and sheriff departments in this country have an excess of funds for things that I would prefer they not have. Militarized equipment and just resources that are dangerous to community members. I think if we trim their budgets a little bit, we have places that desperately need those funds. It may not make up the shortfall in our school budget, for example, but we have a place to put that extra money. And I think that investing in our schools and our teachers is a much better use of our money to keep our community safe.
The other issue, because I think you've briefly touched on it, but I'm not sure if you want to go there right now.
It's up to you. You're the interviewer. You can steer the ship.
Yeah, good. Yeah, go ahead. I think it's important to get maybe your two big issues that you are passionate about and that you've been kind of speaking to city council about, or people might recognize you from speaking to city council about. So we'll hit on those two.
Okay. Well, the other big issue is Palestine, right? And one of the reasons I felt it was important to run is that it is really, really hard to get your elected officials to talk about Palestine. It's very hard. 2.5 years into the genocide, sometimes they'll make vague statements about human rights, or sometimes you'll get people who are willing to make statements about Palestinian children, but they won't talk about the genocide specifically or the Palestinian people. I know that one of the reasons I feel sort of estranged from the Democratic Party is Palestine. I used to be a straight blue ticket every time I voted, vote blue no matter who. And it really broke my heart in 2023 and 2024 to see our elected officials refuse to talk about this or support the genocide. The other thing that I think comes up a lot when I would talk about Palestine is like, why is this relevant to Alexandria at all, right? And I think there's two reasons. First of all, when I think about the city, I think about how do we take care of the people who live here? And also what are our external impacts, right? Our tax dollars in every state, city in America go towards Israel and fund Israeli weapons. So there's our contributions in that way. We also have the new Virginia Tech campus that has many defense contractors present. Boeing, they have drone soccer for children. We are very embedded in the defense corridor, and now we have the new National Innovation Corridor. So we're very entwined with these defense contractors and companies that are committing war crimes, that are participating in the genocide in Palestine and other genocides in other places. So we have a responsibility as a community to address that and try to do some things to make it right. I also think I know my neighbors, and Alexandrians really, really care about human rights. It is a core part of our community ethos. And I actually think more people than not, when they understand ethical investment, support it. When they understand that we want to take our city funds and our city resources and make sure they don't contribute to more harm in other places or domestically. I think people like that.
So if you were elected as a city council member, what are your thoughts, or what do you want to do on that front?
Well, I think that we've had several good drafts of an ethical investment resolution. The question is just getting support and getting it put on the docket. People have gone back and forth about exact language and if we should use just the UN guidelines or if we should use the Albanese report guidelines, which go into more detail about which weapons manufacturers and which companies specifically profited from genocide. But there's a document ready to go, essentially. It just needs enough support to be voted on.
Do you know how much money Alexandria is investing?
That's a good question. I do know the numbers, and now that I'm nervous, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I know we sort of have it in 4 places. We have the VRS, which the city council doesn't really have the ability to impact. They can write to the VRS and say, we support ethical investment, but it's unlikely they would pull our money out of there. We have the local government investment pool. That's a large chunk of our money. Then we have our pension funds and our other city investments, and we have our contracts. So we're invested significantly in a lot of places, and this wouldn't make our investments more ethical in all places. This is a jumping off point to reassess our city funds. I also think it sets us up for the future, right? A lot of these companies that people have been calling out for their complicity in the genocide in Palestine, we see them now actively working with the Trump government and ICE. We see them now participating in the genocide in Sudan. So if we set these ethical standards now, and if they reflect our city values, then going forward, we know we have a screening mechanism for investments. We know we won't be investing in companies that are contrary to our values because we already have a system set up.
It seems like both things. Why don't you think there has been action taken, and are there negatives that would affect the city, or is it more difficult to make those changes than we might think, or than we might assume?
I mean, I think anything with finances is always a little bit complicated, right? Especially when you have them in multiple forms of investment and with multiple overseeing bodies. So it is genuinely very complicated to make a plan for ethical screening for money. But in some ways it isn't. There are existing investment funds that are designed for this purpose, that are not invested in weapons manufacturers, that are not invested in companies that contribute to climate collapse, fossil fuels. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel there. If we put a screening mechanism in place and we use those existing financial entities, that's pretty easy. I think there's definitely concern about alien. I think I can't speak for other city council members, right? I'm sure they have their own reasons, but I think there are concerns about who in the community might not be on board with this, or if people will feel that their pensions aren't being taken seriously. But I think that there are ways to do this that are nuanced, where people still get a good return on their investments. And again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can use the UN screening mechanism, and we can use these investment funds that already exist.
Is there a city or community that has successfully done this that people can look at and say, oh, it was done here and this is what it looks like?
Portland, Maine has done this. I know there are several cities in California. I'm so nervous. I'm sorry that I'm nervous. There are several cities that have passed these resolutions in the last year and a half in the United States. And I know that if you go and look up apartheid-free cities, there have been cities that have entered into ethical investment platforms and mechanisms before and successfully done that.
We talked about some of your experience earlier, and you talked about affordable housing. Just wondering if you can talk about some of the boards and commissions that you have served on, some of your experience that maybe you've seen firsthand, and how that helps you in this role.
So those were very educational for me. I think probably a little difficult for some of the people I served with on those boards and commissions because I wanted big sweeping change, and that's not what they're really designed for in our city. And a lot of them that had more impact before don't have as much now, especially around human rights issues. I can definitely say that I served on the Alexandria Commission for Persons with Disabilities, and then I was on the Affordable Housing Commission in my capacity as someone on the Commission for Disabilities. And I watched us go through a process of getting community feedback on a housing development where activists came out for 3 months and talked so much about how they needed more affordable housing in that entity. And we discussed extensively, okay, how will we do this? And after 3 months of community input, there was a vote. The first vote required a higher number of affordable units. And then the second vote was more of a compromise, and everyone signed on to it because the first vote failed. I believe there's 19 people in that body, and this was 3 months of community input and a lot of passion from people. And people, I guess passion feels reductive. People telling us their needs, telling us we need more affordable housing for this project to serve us. And then it got to city council and they threw that all out. And that was pretty disappointing for me. And it made me feel like sometimes community input is done just for the sake of saying it was done. I think that I've heard that frustration from people a lot, that they feel like decisions are already made. And when they come out to participate, ultimately it might be, I don't know, performatively heard, but not really heard. And that was disappointing, especially since I don't always agree with people when they come out to city council and they have big feelings. And I know people don't always agree with me, but I really heard those people say, like, we need more supports from the city and not get them. And I was very disappointed with that experience. So it made me feel more that we need a city council that is responsive when they get community feedback. I think that's been my experience also as a community organizer, just feeling sometimes like you're not heard. And I think I've seen efforts from this latest crew, and especially Mayor Gaskins, to address that, but I think we could do more to make people feel like their input is valued and sincerely part of the process.
Yeah, I've been asking this question, and I've been asking this for the 15 years I've been doing journalism, but you have 160, 70,000 people, probably 160, 70,000 different opinions, if not double that. Some people have multiple opinions on everything. How do you best represent what's best for the community as a representative?
I mean, that's hard, right? I think you try to balance things. You try to balance your core personal ethics and your belief about what the community needs and what the community stands for. And that's what I would do. But you also try to, I think any good leader has to be willing to take in new feedback and to learn and change their opinion. So if people are really telling you, I live here, a lot of us live here, and we're not getting our needs met, it's something to take seriously. It doesn't mean you always have to concede the point. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes there's no compromise to be made. But I do think if you're getting regular community interaction and feedback that tells you something, and you should try to take some of that in.
We've talked a lot about a lot of big things so far. I'm wondering, if you were to get elected, it would be sworn in May. Obviously, it's after budget, so we don't have to worry about that. But what is something that you would try to work on first, or move first, or get done first, or introduce in the first 60, 90 days?
Well, like I said earlier, I would like to really push on getting ICE out of the city. I think a lot of American cities are hunkering down and preparing for the fact that they may have more substantial ICE interaction than they have so far, right? And we don't know what cities will be when. It's kind of like playing whack-a-mole. So what we need to do is prepare, and we have clear demands from community groups about what we can do. They do not want our sheriff's department participating with ICE, so we need to push really hard on that as much as we can through our city council. I know that he is a separate elected official, but there's a lot of ways to put pressure on him. And I think the flock reader issue is going to be very important. We want less surveillance of our citizens. We know that ICE and the Trump government use that against people.
Just going to ask next here. Do you have any take on there not being a Republican candidate?
I don't know about a take. I mean, I think it's fine, I guess. I believe if the Republican Party sincerely felt it was worth their time, they would have figured that out. I don't mind that Alexandria is a consistently progressive city. I do think it's a problem that we have so many people within one political party, and sometimes I think they are not willing to engage in conflict with each other because of that. I think people want more open discussion. They want people to shake things up and push a little bit. But in terms of having a Republican candidate in the race, I don't think a Republican candidate represents our city's values. So I'm not worried about it.
What have you been hearing since you over the last? Actually, we didn't get to it, but have you considered running for office in the past? And also, what have you been hearing from people since you announced or since it became public?
I guess not really prior to these firehouse primaries, just because I'm in elections. I don't see myself as a politician, really. I'm here because I am an Alexandrian and I'm really engaged in the city and I have strong opinions about what our city should do. So this is really a first for me, and I hadn't really thought of it much before. I'd say overall, I'm getting a lot of good feedback. I mean, if you look in the comments on the Zebra, everybody wants to know if my parents signed my permission slip and why I don't have a septum piercing. But I think that's okay. I'll think about the septum piercing. Could be good. Might be a cute look. Overall, I've had a lot of support. I've heard from a lot of people who are glad that there will be a voice representing human rights and the rights of the Palestinian people, the rights of our immigrant neighbors. And I think they appreciate having more choice. I think more choice is good.
I will note that I did not see those comments, and I will also note that
on your article, it's fine. I thought it was kind of fun.
It sometimes I'm not sure if I'm covering the same city as everybody else. I will put that out there. If you look at some publications, they're still reporting Republicanism in this race. So just be careful be careful reading comments and be careful what you read. Wondering what's the most important thing voters don't know about you?
So I think this is supposed to be sort of a fun question. So I'll answer it seriously and in a fun way, I guess. Seriously, I moved around a lot as a child and did not really feel like I had a community or a place that I was from. When people would ask me where I was from, sometimes I would answer the latest country I lived. And I finally feel like I have a community here. I feel like Alexandria is my home, and that means a lot to me. I take that very seriously. In a fun way, I really like pop culture movies, but also really TV. I really like to dig into TV stuff. And if you want to talk like industry stuff, producers, directors, behind the scenes gossip, I'm your person, even if I haven't seen it. In fact, possibly more if I haven't seen it. Like I really I'm very into following certain news, but I don't watch horror movies because I'm a wuss. So
yeah, I don't either. What's the Oscar winner this year?
I think it'll be Sinners. I think Sinners has the momentum. People are excited about the fact that an original movie made so much money. And I think the industry, I mean, I don't know. I hope the industry wants to reflect the fact that they appreciate original films and not sequels at a time when we're seeing all these mergers and sort of catastrophic repercussions for cinema.
I really enjoyed Begonia, Sinners, and One Battle After Another with Leonardo. I try to see them all over the long, cold winter. I should start a movie podcast.
You should, or I don't know. I think that could be something that like is a community event, right? Everybody watches all the awards nominees. That would be fun.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. We didn't talk about it. Well, we didn't talk about it on air, but your thoughts on the other question on April 21st or starting this Friday, redistricting.
I'm in favor. I guess that's my short answer. I support it and I'm in favor. My long answer is I think a lot of people are concerned about, the ramifications of redistricting like this. But I also think that people want the Democrats to act like a genuine opposition party. And this is one of the few efforts I've seen that really reflects that, playing hardball. But we know that a Democrat getting into office, if this is what this leads to, more Democrats being in office doesn't guarantee that they're going to represent working people or the values that we have. You can have a Democrat in office and then they will vote against continuing the shutdown and cost people their health care, right? They might not ever speak about Palestine, or they might vote to send weapons to Israel. So this is a first step. I think people should vote yes, but they should be mindful about who they're electing into these positions, and primaries will be very important.
We talked about some of your bigger issues, affordable housing, ethical investments, abolish ICE. What is, if we were going to round out 5 or so, what are some of the other things that you really care or really passionate about, or think you really bring to the table?
I really care about our LGBTQ plus community members. I think the trans sanctuary resolution that we passed in the city was really important. But what I'm hearing from those community members is it's going to be really important that we have actual enforcement of our anti-discrimination policies, right? Because that plays out a lot in people's workplaces and homes. I care a lot about our schools. Obviously, as we have discussed extensively, I won't get to be part of the budget process, and I'm bummed about that. I hope that ACPS will get the funding they want. I'm excited about the teachers union. But I think there are other ways. There's been a long-term community campaign to get SROs out of Alexandria City schools. I still support that. I think it's important. And I think perhaps in light of what's going on with ICE now, more parents understand why the community was asking for that in the first place.
Why should people vote for you instead of the other 2 candidates starting this Friday and leading up to April 21st?
I'm really passionate about this city. I am not afraid to take risks for the issues I care about. I've put my physical body on the line. I'm willing to do that. I care about listening to all people in this city and representing all people. And I will bring those values to a city council seat if I am lucky enough to win it. I take the voters of this city and all of the people of this city very seriously. I will be an advocate for them, and I will listen to them.
Your website is AVO4ALX.com, just in case people are listening. So it's AVO, which is your initials, 4ALX.com. And people can read more about your platform there, as well as contact you, do all sorts of things on your website. Is there anything that we did not get to today that you were hoping we would?
No, this was a really great conversation, Ryan. I appreciate the chance for people to check out my website, read my platform more in depth. If they want to contact me with questions, there's a contact form. I'd love to hear from them. And I hope everyone will turn out to vote on the 21st, both in favor of the referendum and maybe for me.
All right, Alison. Well, thank you very much for taking the time today. We appreciate it, and we wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right, so that is Alison Virginia O'Connell, and she is an independent candidate for Alexandria City Council. Once again, her website is avo4alx.com, and you can find out more information there. If you missed any portion of this conversation, want to watch it again, want to share it, want to listen to it, read it, it will all be available at alexandriabrief.com. The video is there now, and the podcast audio story will be there in just a short while. We appreciate Alison for taking the time and joining us today. That is all 3 candidates for Alexandria City Council. Once again, early voting starts this Friday. You can find more information on alexandriabrief.com about the special election. Thanks for watching.